YouTube Premium es YouTube sin anuncios y la app YouTube Music combinados. Videos sin interrupciones y una app solo para música. YouTube Premium, una suscripción, 2 aplicaciones. Prueba un mes gratis.
Me dijeron que tenía que usar el micrófono, así que no es karaoke, pero bueno. Buenos días, mi nombre es Henry Quesada, yo soy de San Ramón. ¿Alguien de San Ramón, de por aquí? ¿Solo un moncheño? Puchis, bueno. En el distrito de Concepción, ahí me crié y yo estudié en el campus de Cartago, Ingeniería en Producción Industrial, compañero de estos señores, de hace ratillo, por cierto. Muy diferentes es ahora todo, y después de que yo terminé de estudiar, trabajé en La Nación un par de años y entré al TEC a trabajar en el año 98 como a dar clases. En el año 2000 apareció la oportunidad de ir a estudiar, entonces me fui precisamente a esta universidad, la Universidad de Purdue, que está en el estado de Indiana. Ahí saqué la maestría, el doctorado, en una carrera, es una combinación de ingeniería industrial y producción de madera, se llama tecnología de productos de madera. Ahí estuve 5 años, después, bueno, 4 años y medio, y luego regresé al TEC. Estuve trabajando en el TEC otra vez del año 2004 al 2008, y en el 2008 se presentó una oportunidad para trabajar en una universidad que se llama Virginia Tech, que está en el estado de Virginia. Y ahí estuve casi 14 años, y hace un par de años se presentó una oportunidad para trabajar en un puesto de liderazgo en la Universidad de Purdue. Entonces, en febrero del 2022 regresé otra vez a Indiana, y ahí yo tengo plaza como profesor en el Departamento de Forestal y Recursos Naturales, pero en este momento mi cargo es un cargo de liderazgo. Yo estoy a cargo de lo que es el programa de extensión de agricultura y recursos naturales para el estado de Indiana. Entonces, nuestro enfoque es básicamente tomar todo ese conocimiento que se desarrolla en la universidad y dárselo a la gente. y eso lo hacemos a través de funcionarios extensionistas, que son los compañeros que están aquí hoy presentes, ¿verdad? Ellos en su mayoría son agrónomos y les voy a contar un poquito lo que hacen. Entonces, de nuevo les agradezco mucho la presencia. Lo vamos a hacer en inglés para que sea más fácil. Les agradezco mucho su presencia el día de hoy. Ustedes están en el curso de diseño de experimentos, ¿verdad? ¿Y qué tal? Me imagino que el profesor es buenísimo y todo es facilísimo. Sí, diseño de experimentos es un tema que es muy utilizado en cualquier área. Ellos lo utilizan mucho en todo lo que son diseños experimentales, cuando hay que probar, por ejemplo, diferentes tipos de suelo, diferentes tipos de fertilizantes, diferentes tipos de semillas en la agricultura, pero también en manufactura. O sea, es que lo pueden usar en todo. Es una aplicación de estadística buenísima. Entonces, un buen curso, ojalá que les esté yendo muy bien. Bueno, así como para presentarme, entonces le voy a dar la palabra a la compañera Ann Klein, que va a empezar la presentación y luego todos nos vamos a ir rotando. Okay.
All right, so we were going to give you a quick introduction of Indiana and the agriculture in Indiana. So you can see Indiana is kind of in the Midwest, we call it, of the United States. And if you overlay Indiana onto Costa Rica, Indiana is about 1.8 times larger than Costa Rica, so not quite double the size of Costa Rica. Okay. The agriculture in Indiana, as compared to all of the other states in the United States, we are #1 in duck production. We also do some wood. We have a lot of popcorn compared to the other states. Ice cream is always good in Indiana. We have a lot of chickens and eggs. But even though we are #1 in those areas, the biggest thing that we do is crops, and it's corn and soybeans. So even though we do all of these other things and we rank highly, corn and soybeans are the biggest crops for Indiana. Okay? We have a lot of farms. They range from very, very small farms to very, very large farms. We have some populations of Amish in Indiana, some very large populations. And so these Amish or plain people, they don't use electricity. They travel with horse and buggy still, and they have very small farms. But then we have large production agriculture as well. So we get to see a lot of different kinds of agriculture in Indiana. Okay. I'm going to flip back. I jumped one so that you could. I think I'm back to you.
Vamos a cambiar un poquito de español. Entonces, para contarles un poquito de lo que es la Universidad de Purdue, algunos datos interesantes. La fecha de fundación, esta universidad es lo que se llama una land grant, que lo que quiere decir es que en ese tiempo el gobierno federal donó dinero a los estados para que compraran terrenos para establecer sus propias universidades en cada estado. Antes de estas universidades solo estaban las que se conocen como las Ivy League, como Cornell, MIT, Harvard, Yale. Entonces realmente solo la gente de mucho dinero, de mucho estatus social podía ir a la universidad. Entonces estas land grants son como universidades rurales, como decir un colegio rural, como decir el TEC, o sea, enfocado en aplicación. Entonces hay una de estas land grants en cada estado y hay unas que tienen hay un estado que tiene más de una. Entonces esta es la significancia, porque si no hubiera sido por eso, entonces básicamente solo la gente muy rica hubiera podido ir a la universidad. Y ya tienen pues casi 175 años. La universidad está estructurada en colegios. Los más importantes es el Colegio de Agricultura, el Colegio de Ingeniería. Nosotros estamos en el Colegio de Agricultura. Después está la Escuela de Negocios, el Instituto Politécnico, que tiene carreras muy parecidas a Ingeniería en Producción Industrial. Y de hecho ahorita estamos trabajando en un convenio para que ojalá muchos de ustedes puedan ir a visitarnos y también profesores del Politécnico puedan venir por acá. El Colegio de Ciencias, Educación, Artes Liberales, Farmacia y lo que es la Escuela de Graduados. Esa es la cantidad de estudiantes. Aproximadamente 40,000 estudiantes son estudiantes de pregrado, que es como ustedes, o sea, que están sacando su bachillerato. Allá no existe el concepto de licenciatura, no, que bachillerato se pasa a maestría. El presupuesto son 2.9 billones de dólares, que serían 2.900 millones de dólares. ¿Alguien sabe cuál es el presupuesto del TEC? Bueno, se los dejo de tarea. Pero, o sea, es tamaño poquillo de plata. Esto es lo que cuesta estudiar por año. ¿Cuánto cuesta estudiar en el TEC por año? 500, sí, los derechos de, ujú, por ahí. Entonces, si usted es residente, si usted vive en Indiana, usted paga esto por año y eso no incluye la dormida ni la comida. Si usted es de otro estado o extranjero, eso paga por año. Entonces, ¿por qué? Porque la idea es que se beneficie a los que viven en el estado de Indiana, porque usted paga impuestos ahí. Entonces, para tener una idea. Y esto es de las universidades más baratas. Una universidad como Brown son $50,000 por año, que es una de esas Ivy Leagues. Rankings, hay muchos rankings, para que tengan una idea, dentro de lo que son las universidades públicas, ahorita está rankeada número 17 en Estados Unidos. Es una universidad muy famosa por muchas cosas. Una cosa interesante es astronautas. How many astronauts we have had? Like 27? Hay como unos 27 astronautas que se han graduado, incluyendo el primer ser humano que fue a la luna. ¿Cómo se llamó? Ese mismo, ese es graduado de Purdue. Entonces, es muy reconocida por eso, todo lo que es ingeniería, pero lo que es el Colegio de Agricultura también es el número 3 del país. El Colegio de Agricultura tiene 11 departamentos y más de 3,000 estudiantes y aproximadamente como unos 350 profesores. Entonces, es bastante dinámico y bastante grande. La otra, yeah, that slide just went into the middle. Sorry about that. Lo otro que quería comentarle específicamente a la charla de hoy es que el programa de extensión de la universidad se divide en 4 programas específicos. Nosotros estamos en el programa, en el último, en agricultura y recursos naturales. Y nos enfocamos en apoyar a las comunidades, a individuos, a familias, en cuestiones relacionadas a agricultura y recursos naturales. Dando desde cursos de capacitación hasta, por ejemplo, cómo entender pestes que atacan diferentes cultivos, cómo trabajar, por ejemplo, en agricultura urbana, si alguien quiere hacer, digamos, establecer un jardín de horticultura, cómo trabajar con ganadería, cómo trabajar con bosque, con madera. Ese es el enfoque. Entonces, el trabajo es básicamente en 2 frentes, educación y después preguntas técnicas. Entonces, alguien te llama y tiene una pregunta técnica, entonces nosotros les ayudamos. Los otros programas, por ejemplo, el programa de 4H es un programa que se enfoca en trabajar con niños menores de edad y trabaja con niños con menores de edad en colegios, en escuelas primarias. Y son por lo general programas que se hacen después de que terminan las clases. Entonces, es otra área. Después, el área de lo que son ciencias humanas y la salud se enfoca muchísimo en la parte de nutrición y asegurarse que la gente tiene hábitos buenos para que puedan vivir una vida larga. Y la última parte, pero no menos importante, todo lo que es el desarrollo comunitario. Por ejemplo, la planeación de necesidades de una comunidad, dónde vamos a poner un parque, dónde vamos a poner edificios, el uso de la tierra, aspectos de energía renovable. Estas son las 4 áreas en que se divide lo que es extensión. Algunos números específicos, el presupuesto de nosotros, no solamente agricultura, los 4 programas, es alrededor de $30 millones por año. Son 10 millones que viene del gobierno federal y 10 millones que viene del gobierno estatal. El gobierno estatal tiene que hacer ese match. Si el gobierno federal le da $1, el gobierno estatal le tiene que dar otro $1. Entonces, es obligación. Y los condados también tienen que aportar otro $1. Entonces, al final, por eso se llama un sistema cooperativo. Entonces, cada uno aporta $1 y ese es el presupuesto. El estado de Indiana tiene 92 condados. Entonces, en el caso, por ejemplo, de agricultura y recursos naturales, nosotros tenemos casi un educador, un extensionista en cada condado. Es como imagínense que tuviéramos acá un extensionista en cada municipalidad, que estuviera ahí ayudando a la comunidad y apoyando a la comunidad. Pero también existen profesores que trabajan en extensión. Entonces, no sé si ustedes, los compañeros, han trabajado en algún proyecto de extensión, pero es el mismo esquema. Profesores que dan clases, hacen investigación y también tienen proyectos de extensión y ellos trabajan muy de cerca con los educadores con los educadores, porque los educadores le abren las puertas a entrar a esas comunidades. Todo lo que es extensión está centralizado en 3 colegios. Recuerdan que les dije que habían, creo que en 10 o 11 colegios. Está centralizado más principalmente en agricultura, pero también en el Colegio de Ciencias Humanas de la Salud y en la Escuela Veterinaria. Entonces, esos 3 colegios es donde están estos 30 millones que están acá, básicamente se distribuyen acá y mayoritariamente en lo que es la parte de agricultura. Y antes de devolverle la palabra a la compañera, esto es muy importante porque así es como funciona Extensión. Un buen programa de extensión funciona si responde a las necesidades de la comunidad. Usted no puede llegar a ofrecer un programa si no está basado en una necesidad. Entonces, ellos son responsables de todos los años hacer una evaluación de necesidades en sus comunidades y de determinar, bueno, este año tenemos un problema con especies invasoras. ¿Ustedes han escuchado hablar de la hormiga loca? Sí, no, algunos, usted sí. Ahí en San Ramón es un problema enorme y eso es una hormiguita que dicen por ahí, la historia es que supuestamente la trajeron de Brasil, la pusieron en unos cañales en Grecia para eliminar, controlar ciertas plagas y luego se salió de Grecia y ahora anda por todo lado. Eso es una especie invasora, es una especie que no es de aquí. Eso es un problema muy grande en Estados Unidos y es una de las necesidades que ellos cubren con las comunidades. Y muchísimas otras. Entonces, todos los años hay que evaluar cuáles son las necesidades. Y luego usted desarrolla el programa. Puede ser un programa de asistencia técnica, puede ser un curso de capacitación. Una vez que hace eso, entonces lo implementa y luego lo evalúa. ¿Por qué? Porque al final lo que queremos es evaluar ese impacto. O sea, ¿de qué sirve a mí dar un curso para que la gente aprenda a utilizar, por ejemplo, una técnica de control de plagas si no lo están usando? O sea, realmente no hay impacto. Entonces, lo más significativo de extensión es que uno pueda cambiar el comportamiento de la gente. Si no se cambia, entonces en realidad no pasa nada. Entonces, más o menos con eso para explicarles lo que es la parte de extensión. Who's this one? Is it me? Ok. Voy a hacer esta también. Entonces, para explicarles, aquí habemos 11 compañeros que venimos de la Universidad de Purdue. Yo soy el encargado de lo que es el programa de Agricultura y Recursos Naturales y estoy ubicado aquí en este condado, es donde está la universidad, el campus principal. También tenemos el compañero Daniel Walker, que es un educador regional en la parte de desarrollo comunitario. Después tenemos a la compañera Ann Klein, ella está ubicada en el condado Noble, este es Ann. Jeff Shortgent está ubicado en el condado de Wabash. Courtney Smith, Miami. No Miami, Florida, Miami, Indiana. No, el condado. Janelle Franks está en el condado de Blackford. Ella es educadora en Ciencias Humanas de la Salud. Beth Vansicle, condado de Madison. Jeff Pell en Hendricks. Jeff Pell es uno de esos educadores que tiene que jugar 2 partidos al mismo tiempo. Tiene que trabajar en agricultura y recursos naturales, pero también en desarrollo comunitario. Después tenemos Michelle Jones, está en Morgan County. Tavi Flynn en Vigo County. Y también tenemos a don Luis Santiago, que está en el condado de Davis County. Luis hace de todo, ¿verdad, Luis? Y Luis habla muy bien español. Bueno, eso es lo que yo pienso. Bueno, entonces ahí para hacerles una pequeña introducción y ahora entonces le paso el micrófono a los demás compañeros.
So my name is Tabby. I am the Ag and Natural Resources Educator in Vigo County, which is in the south central part of the state. We kind of split our county. We have a lot of people who do agriculture, and then we also have a lot of people who are into natural resources. The city that I live in has the highest parks per capita in the nation, so it's tied with other cities across the nation, but we have over 48 parks, so we have a lot of green space. And because of that, we value our natural resources. I do a lot of programming that involves the natural world. So beekeeping is one that I do a lot of. I teach about trees and the insects and animals that live within our county. And we also have a big focus on invasive species. So we try and keep those out of our natural areas and help landowners understand where they're coming from and how to manage them on their own properties. In addition to that, I help a lot with the parks. So this one right here is a mountain biking park that just opened up a couple years ago. We have over 28 miles of trail, and so I teach people about the area. That particular park was made on something that used to be a coal mine. So the land is very different than the rest of the county because it's been turned up and it's got lots of hills and things like that. And we find a lot of fossils out there. So that's a big program that I do involving the fossils in the area. We teach about prescribed burning. We have a lot of areas where we have prairie grass, and we teach landowners how to manage that grass. In the natural world, within the state, we would get wildfires that would come and burn through, and that burning returns nutrients to the soil. So it's teaching people who own that land how to manage it and how to rejuvenate the soil by doing those burns. And we do a lot of hiking. So we have lots of hiking activities. We also have the Wabash River running through our county. And before we had cars, the Wabash River was a big transportation system for the state. So barges would go up and down. And we also have a series of old canals that used to run through the county. So the other side of things that I do is surrounding agriculture. And we do a lot of row crops. So we have corn, soybeans, wheat, and sorghum, which is another small grain. So those are my main crops. My background is in insects, so that's what I studied in college. So I get a lot of questions about insects, and I think I might be the only entomologist in our extension services within the county. So I get a lot of insect questions, which is great because I love to answer those. But I do help farmers a lot with their insects. We do specialty crops. So these pictures here are my master gardeners, and that is their giving garden. So that's a garden they have at the fairgrounds that is about 3 acres. And from that garden, they grew all kinds of vegetable crops, and they donate them to people who don't have food. So last year, I think we raised over 12,000 tons of produce out of that garden that all went back to people in the community that needed it. We also do a lot of field work. So we take groups out and show them how to scout for insects. We teach them about pesticide safety and how to implement IPM, which is integrated pest management. And the goal of that program is to teach them, you don't have to go to the chemical pesticides first. There are other things you can do to manage your insect pests in the area. We also house a lot of swine and beef cattle. So here is, myself with one of our pigs at the fair. We have lots of farmers who raise beef and swine. We also have a large number of goat farmers in the area, so I do a lot of work with them as well. And now I think I am turning it over, who is this? To Janelle.
Hello, I'm Janelle Franks. I work in Blackford County, which is east central Indiana, in a very small county. But it also has really low socioeconomic status, so there is a lot of need for the health and human sciences areas that I focus on. So a simple way to say that, I think, is public health is what I'm focused on. So we support agriculture in a more practical way on what that looks like maybe within the home and within communities for the nutrition and dietetics and interpersonal concerns. So in health and human sciences, we're really focused on food, family, money, and health. And really, as an extension educator in the county, I have to figure out what my county needs within those 4 areas. So I really focus a lot on food and nutrition, food safety, healthy living, and then some financial resources. We also have other people working in the county that are not Purdue Extension that are doing many of those things as well. So things that I know within our community is that we have 38% of people within my county are diabetic or pre-diabetic. So the healthy nutrition and healthy cooking and food choices is very important. So as a part of that, I do Dining with Diabetes. I also teach ServeSafe, which is a credential that people who own and manage restaurants need, as well as daycare providers. There are a few other schools need to have that credentialing, and so that's another thing that I teach in the areas of food. I also do the food preservation, so canning mostly in our area is what's needed, but we can also focus on dehydrating, and we're just kind of approaching fermentation, but I think that that will be a really good thing for us to figure out. A project that's just kind of a neat passion project. I have someone from the USDA said I have money to do a farm to school program, and so you can see me in the top. I'm reading a story called Sylvia's Spinach to these preschoolers, and Head Start is a government preschool for low-income families. So we also planted some spinach. I chose varieties that have about a 25 to 30 day maturity, and so in late April, hopefully we'll go in and it's growing. Hopefully they're taking care of it, and we'll go in and have a harvest party. And then I also provided growing instructions to families as well as recipes. Another big part of my job is partnerships with coalitions and communities. So these are some of the coalitions that I'm focused on: Prevent Child Abuse, Healthy Communities Alliance. All of these are, members of these would be from hospitals and other agencies. Core ECI is Consortium for Opioid Response and Engagement. That's a partnership between Purdue Health and IU Health, Indiana University Health. So we are facilitating conversations and community discussions to reduce stigma and to promote opioid abuse prevention. And some of those other things that come out of those relationships, we've done diaper distributions for low-income families, sleep safe trainings for infants, and then we are able, through a grant, to provide pack and plays or bassinets for families, and CPR training, and whatever else comes our way. So that's all. Okay, Michelle.
Hello, I'm Michelle Jones, and I'm in Morgan County, which is southwest of Indianapolis. So I get a little bit of that urban sprawl, but my county is also different because halfway through it, the glacier stopped. So the top half, or the north half, is flat, and then the bottom half has rolling hills going into mountains. Well, not really mountains, but rolling hills for Indiana. So in the flatter parts, I have farmers. And so when I work with my farmers, I partner with 3 other counties that are in the more rolling hills area to offer the Quad County PARP. And a PARP is a private applicator recertification training for any farmer that wants to use restricted use pesticides, because they need to know how to do it safely. If they don't keep their certifications up, they can't buy the products. And this happened last March, and is it this one? I had over 50 farmers from 4 different counties show up, and we also practiced railroad crossing safety and spill safety and things like that. During our fair, we have what's called a farmer's breakfast, where I partner with Morgan County Soil and Water to bring in a speaker to invite the farmers to breakfast for free. And they get to learn from, in this case, it was Hans Schmidt. He was talking about climate change and good weather apps to use when you're working with your crops. I've never seen a speaker get swarmed with questions afterwards so much with Hans. So I actually invited him to come back to speak to our Farm Bureau annual dinner this year. Another part of the aspect that I work with farmers is I'm part of Purdue on the Farm, which is an additional extension outreach to work with grain, corn and soybean farmers in our county. And we go out and we visit the farm 4 times a year. We take soil tests, do crop scouting, plant sample tests, and we also do crop estimates. And this is my farmer, Jason Maxwell. It also turns out that he's on the county council, which is a nice little bonus, so Purdue actually knows what I'm doing. And he had a really good yield in his cornfield. Like, look at the pollination on that corn. It was really great. So that's what I do with my farmers. As a statewide program, I'm involved in Women in Agriculture, which helps promote women education because they're a traditionally underserved audience. So we host an annual conference. It's called the Ag Women Engage Conference. It's for any agriculture professional or farmer, so that they can come and get professional development. We had over 200 attendees this past February. And as part of that conference, it's like a conference within a conference. We have a Young Ladies in Agriculture Forum, which is designed for young women in 8th grade to college to help bridge the gap of interest in agriculture to bring them into becoming agriculture women. So we had over 160 young ladies attend this past February, where they learned resume building, professional dress, entrepreneurship, anything that could help get you to a job and the various jobs. We had a college panel and then a technology panel, and that went over really well. Another part of the Women in Ag is our regional ladies' night outs, because if you host something in a specific location in Indiana, not everyone in Indiana is going to drive to it because it's a very long way. So this past December, I hosted a ladies' night out at our local goldfish farm. I have, on the east of the Mississippi, the largest goldfish farm in the United States. It's called Ozark Fisheries. They do goldfish and ornamental koi. And they mail them everywhere. You can buy them on Amazon now. And so the ladies came and learned about goldfish farming, and then they also got to fly drones and play around with them so they're not scared on that. It was very well attended. And then I have master gardeners, and I've got over 50 active master gardeners in my county. They host their own little conference called Garden Fest. They have a demonstration garden at the fairgrounds, and then they also help me out with 4-H floriculture workshops, and where they work on putting together flowers or planters, and the master gardeners guide them. One of my favorite things is you give the children the same supplies, and you will get 3 different bouquets. I love it. They all come out different. It's just a lot of fun. So that is me in Morgan County. Ann.
Again, I'm Ann, and I'm in Noble County, so I'm almost as far north and east as you can get in Indiana, almost, okay? So we had snow yesterday in Indiana where I'm at, so I guess I'm happy to be here sweating. So one of my goals is to help farmers and gardeners understand their soil better. What do they need to do to their soil to improve their crop yield or their garden yield? And how do you take care of your soil to improve the environment so that it's not impacting our environment in a negative way? And one of the things we talk about is cover crops. So in those, in Indiana we have snow, so we can't grow crops year round. We have kind of the winter time where we can't grow crops. Cover crops are something that can grow at least to a point during that time, It helps keep erosion at bay so that the soil isn't being washed away. It helps pull up some of the nutrients that might otherwise be lost. So there's a lot of benefits to cover crops, and that's one of the things that I like to talk about with my farmers and with my gardeners. You can see I do some youth education. I go to the classrooms and help teach kids, and they get to texture soils, understand what the properties of soils are, what kind of a soil is best to grow a crop, and how do you improve your soil, adding compost, things like that, to make it more beneficial. You can see here at the top right, that's me taking a soil sample. So I'm always encouraging not only my farmers, but also my gardeners to not over-apply fertilizers. Do not over-apply things. We don't want too much nitrogen. We don't want too much phosphorus. Those can impact our environment negatively. So we want to make sure we are teaching those around us to protect our environment. Also, I talk a lot about farm safety. I grew up on a farm. I have personally witnessed some accidents on the farm, and so I am a big supporter of farm safety. So on the left here, that's a picture of me near a cornfield, and I'm teaching anhydrous ammonia safety. So anhydrous ammonia is a chemical that has nitrogen in it, right? Ammonia has nitrogen. And so this is an excellent source of nitrogen for our corn crops, which is a nutrient that they need. However, it's also a somewhat dangerous chemical. It's under pressure, so it's pressurized. It comes out and it's knifed into the ground, but if a hose happens to burst or a hose gets cut and there's an exposure, it can cause devastating effects. And so I teach our farmers and those in the rural areas, okay, this is an excellent source of nitrogen, but we have to treat it with respect. We have to understand what to do in the case of an emergency. And so I help with that. On the top right, you can see I'm in corn. That's maize. And so in Indiana, we have extremely large farms, and they have large storage bins that they hold the grain in. And in these grain bins, if there is perhaps too much moisture, or maybe there's a problem with disease in the corn, sometimes the corn doesn't flow well, and a farmer might go into the bin to try to get it to flow down into the auger system. And sometimes these farmers will go in and they'll be entrapped, and they get pulled down into the corn. And so this was a training that I did with some emergency personnel. How do we deal with, if someone is trapped in a grain bin, how do we extricate them? How do we get them out safely as best we can? So those are just some examples of the farm safety things that I have worked with. Then in the picture in the middle, this is just a fun picture I took after, it was at one of our county fairs, after I did a pesticide safety course. So we also teach how to be safe with pesticides, and this is one of the alpacas that was shown at the county fair. And I would say alpacas are not a prime livestock in Indiana. They're more of either a hobby farm or perhaps being grown for their wool, kind of a very specialty, but I would not say that alpacas are a common livestock animal. In my county, I see there's a few large dairies still. I grew up on a dairy farm with cows, and we milked cows. And since I grew up, we have lost so many dairy farms. The dairy farms are getting much, much larger, but they're not the small family farms scattered around the country anymore. They're much larger, and yeah, so. We also have several swine farms, so we have hog farms and a lot of chicken and duck in my county. So that's kind of the big livestock. But the big thing is crops, corn and soybeans, some alfalfa and hay as well. So one of the other things I do, I work with gardeners. I did a special project, and in my county, we have a facility, a prison, and these incarcerated individuals who are still imprisoned are these guys are in their last 3 years of their sentence, okay? And so they're getting ready to be released back into the population. A lot of these men had drug issues, or perhaps they were caught with theft, breaking and entering, those kinds of things. So they have been imprisoned for however long, and they're ready to get back out into society. And so I work with these guys, and we grow a garden. And we're trying to teach these men, this is a men's facility, we're trying to teach them to give back to their community. And some of these guys have told me they've never had to give back to their community before. They've always just taken. And so it's been excellent. They grow this garden. Last year, they donated to our local food pantry for our needy income people. They donated back over 7,000 pounds of food to our local food pantry. So they're learning to give back to their community. Also, there were several guys, you can see here, 6 men were able to take my Master Gardener class. And so they came, worked alongside those of us in the community, took the class along with the community, and graduated. And this is a long class. This is at least 40 hours of instruction. They have to pass an exam at the end. And so we had 6 men go through that and pass. And I'm telling you, they're gonna do good things. They're already doing amazing things and teaching others what they've learned. So I'm very proud of them and that program. So, Luis, are you speaking in Spanish or English?
Muy buenos días o buenas tardes, no sé la hora, buenos días. Mi nombre es Luis Santiago, yo represento el condado de Davis en Indiana. Yo hablo español porque soy originalmente de Puerto Rico. Llevo 26 años viviendo en Indiana. Soy graduado de zootecnia de la Universidad de Puerto Rico en Mayagüez y hice mi maestría también en zootecnia. Sin embargo, con el tiempo, al estar trabajando en mi comunidad, y como mencionamos anteriormente, nosotros trabajamos identificando algunas necesidades que hay en la comunidad. Una de las necesidades que yo pude experimentar es el hecho de que nosotros tenemos muchos inmigrantes en nuestra comunidad. Similarmente, como ustedes tienen inmigrantes de Nicaragua o de otros países, más o menos contando las personas que hay en mi comunidad, hay alrededor de casi de 20 a 25 países representados en mi condado, una población de casi 32,000 personas. ¿Okay? Sin embargo, la población más alta que nosotros tenemos es las comunidades hispanas. Tenemos muchos hermanos de Costa Rica, México, Guatemala, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Ecuador. Y también ahora tenemos muchas inmigrantes de Haití. Muchos de ellos están inmigrando de Chile y vienen o Chile o México y llegan al condado nuestro buscando oportunidades de trabajo y oportunidades de su salud. Originalmente, cuando yo empecé a trabajar con Extensión hace casi 9 años, yo trabajé con agricultura y recursos naturales. Sin embargo, viendo las necesidades que teníamos en la comunidad de tratar de hacer enlaces con la comunidad hispana, la universidad, bajo la dirección de Henry y de otros líderes de programa, me dieron la oportunidad de hacer un experimento. En vez de estar enfocado en un área específica, la idea que yo estoy tratando de implementar es de cómo implementar diferentes áreas, las diferentes áreas de extensión con la comunidad hispana o con otra comunidad inmigrante que tengamos en el condado. Sin embargo, cuando empezamos a hacer eso, a pesar de que teníamos muy buena relación con diferentes personas, el concepto de extensión para los hispanos allá en Indiana, en el condado de Davis, es completamente nuevo. Por lo tanto, tenemos que estar de la base comenzando a establecer esas relaciones, a hacer pláticas para enseñar lo que nosotros podemos ofrecer. y hacer diferentes programas de enlace en la comunidad. El programa ha ido creciendo por los últimos 3 años. Hemos tenido pláticas con la comunidad hispana, hemos tenido programas con familias hispanas tratando de promover que los estudiantes se gradúen de la escuela superior y vayan al colegio, a la universidad, pero más que nada también tratando de envolver a los padres, a la familia en ese proceso. Y la razón es porque muchas de esas personas, cuando ellos llegan a nuestro país, ellos se dedican a trabajar y proveer para mejores oportunidades para su familia. Sin embargo, tienen una desconexión entre el lenguaje y la generación de los jóvenes. Entran en el sistema, conocen el sistema educativo mejor, conocen el sistema cultural y los padres se sienten desconectados. Por lo tanto, estamos tratando de promover, ayudarlos a crear capacidad en ellos de cómo envolverse con sus hijos en la educación. Y uno de los programas que tenemos se llama el programa Juntos. Estamos con eso. ¿Por qué yo encuentro mi enfoque es importante? Como decimos, nosotros tenemos que averiguar muchas veces las necesidades de la comunidad y muchas veces, a pesar de que identificamos algunas necesidades, una cosa que fallamos es identificar la raíz de ese problema. En el caso de mis comunidades inmigrantes, tenemos los mismos problemas de acceso a la salud, servicios de salud, transportación y todas esas cosas, problemas del lenguaje. Sin embargo, toda la raíz principal, aunque no se ve muy bien aquí, la raíz principal de esos problemas que tenemos es a la desconfianza que existe entre las comunidades migrantes con las comunidades que residen allí y viceversa. Por lo tanto, mientras hay desconfianza, no se hacen los esfuerzos por parte de las diferentes organizaciones en la comunidad de tratar de adaptar los recursos para esos migrantes. Y por lo tanto es que existe esa desconexión. Y esas son las partes que estamos tratando de trabajar, de empezar a establecer esa conexión. ¿Cómo lo estamos haciendo? Lo estamos haciendo con diferentes mesas de diálogo, tratando de integrar no solamente individuos de la comunidad hispana o de la comunidad haitiana, pero también de la comunidad americana de nuestro condado, para identificar cuáles son las necesidades y cómo podemos trabajar juntos para corregir o por lo menos tratar de cambiar la manera como estamos haciendo las cosas en la comunidad. Una de las cosas que siempre es importante es, cuando establecemos esos enlaces, es ser genuino y aceptar que muchas veces nosotros no vamos a tener todas las respuestas, pero que sí lo que queremos es darle, empoderarlos a que ellos también puedan tomar esas decisiones. Uno de los impactos que hemos tenido es que nosotros, a través de Extensión, con las relaciones que yo tengo en mi comunidad y con la parte de educación, hemos establecido algunas colaboraciones con otras entidades, en este caso con la entidad local de salud pública, y hemos podido establecer diferentes eventos comunitarios para conectar con las comunidades hispanas y las comunidades haitianas, enseñarles cuáles son los servicios que nosotros tenemos disponibles, tratar de identificar cuáles son las necesidades que ellos tienen, y muchas de las necesidades que tenían era acceso a asistencia médica, especialmente porque muchos de ellos no tienen ningún tipo de seguro médico, por lo tanto, y en Estados Unidos el costo de asistencia médica es caro, muy costoso. Por lo tanto, a través de nuestra entidad local de salud pública pudimos establecer ciertas clínicas médicas, y en los últimos, lo que llevamos el año pasado, pudimos atender alrededor de 276 personas, que uno nos dice, pues no es mucho. Sin embargo, son 276 personas que a lo mejor no habían tenido acceso a servicios médicos por el hecho de que o no tienen documentos y temen ir a buscar servicios, o no tienen aseguranza y no pueden pagar por los servicios. En este año empezamos también a tener algunos individuos que son promotores de salud que son bilingües, tanto en español y en inglés, y también del criollo haitiano. Y entre 2 meses hemos podido atender alrededor de 175 clientes en lo que va por lo menos del mes de enero y febrero. ¿Sí? Y ahora le doy a mi compañera Courtney.
So I'm Courtney Schmidt, and I am one of 2 educators in the state of Indiana that has a dual appointment in Ag and Natural Resources and Health and Human Sciences. On the Health and Human Sciences area, I focus on the financial management part. I carry an active insurance license. So before I was an extension, I wrote farm and business insurance for several years. So I try and use that experience in my work now in extension. One of the projects that really combined the Ag and Natural Resources and Health and Human Sciences appointments together very well is called Annie's Project. Michelle talked about Women in Ag, so I'm very active in working with the Women in Ag team. And Annie's Project is one of their signature programs. It is designed for women who have married into a farm family that may not have a background in how farms work and how they are managed. Or it could be just a woman going into the farm business and needing to understand more. So I had this program this January and February, and we had 13 participants, and we did 6 sessions. We did a succession planning, which is how to transfer your farm to the next generations appropriately. We talked about financial skills. I gave my farm insurance presentation to them. We had grain marketing. I brought a professor from Purdue's College of Ag Econ, and he came and talked to them about land leasing and land ownership. Right here, we are taking a tour of a large commercial grain elevator. My husband actually works for that company, so I had an in there to get us in for a nice tour of their facilities. And they had their grain buyers talk to our women about how to market their grain well. Here we're doing a little bit of a soil management lesson. So we do throw in a little soil health so they can know how important it is to keep their ground healthy. But this was a great class. They want to continue coming to more classes now. So it was an excellent networking opportunity for these women to connect with other women in their same situation. So another big program that we do in our office as a whole, I have a 4-H educator in there as well, and we have a nutrition education program advisor as well as a community wellness coordinator. So 4 of us kind of joined together and put on this junior Master Gardener program. One of the problems that we face in Indiana is childhood obesity rates increasing quite a lot. And so we try and teach these kids to grow their own food, and then we harvest with them, and we also teach them how to cook what they grow. So we're trying to encourage them to eat their fresh vegetables and fruits instead of so much processed foods in their diet. So we do a summer camp out on the fairgrounds. We have raised beds. The food that we grow in those raised beds with the kids, if we don't cook with them, it gets donated to local food pantries. This right here is one of the schools that we're in. They have a school garden, and so these are 5th graders. And we last year planted bok choy and radishes. So cold crops because it's pretty cold when we're there. But they got to harvest that, and we made a bok choy salad, and they actually enjoyed salad, which is very difficult to get kids in the United States to like salad. This is the summer camp. One of the activities is showing them the uses of the aloe vera plant, and I had them try aloe vera juice. And this one here is our nutrition education program advisor, and she was teaching them how to make some jam out of strawberries there. So we're on our 3rd year of doing this, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So, thank you. Jeffrey Shorgen.
Hello, my name is Jeff Shorgen. It's kind of a hard pronunciation for folks. Henry, I know, had a hard time with that. I work with turf and horticulture. A lot of times what we do in turf, it is home lawns, so areas around your home, but then also, I'll say American football, baseball. So these are high maintenance areas where you don't want weeds, but a lot of inputs. So we do have a turf research center. That's where I started out learning about the different turf or lawn grass species that we can use. So your guys' climate is very different from north to south, different regions. Same in Indiana. We have to worry about climate in the north of the state versus the south. So we do research on that. Research in the field, like this photo here, but also research in the greenhouse. So a lot of times as extension educators in Indiana, our job is to take what the university researches and condense it down to give to our local communities. Each of the educators here cover a different county, but then we also cover different areas. So I'm one of, I think, 4 turf specialists in the state. So just like I think Tabby mentioned insects, she gets a lot of insect questions. I get a lot of turf questions because I'm the only one sort of in the northern part of the state. My county's in the northern half. So that's one big thing. But I also have a background in horticulture, but our plants are a lot different than what you all grow here because we don't have the warm temperatures all year. We have as high as what it was yesterday and then as low as -2 Fahrenheit. The other thing we work with is pesticides, so chemical inputs. 30 years ago, everyone wanted to put a bunch of chemicals in their lawns to make it green. We're switching from that to make it more of a program-based system where it's slowly improving the soil, getting better turf, and not adding chemicals because we need to worry about polluting our waterways and keeping those inputs on the turf. Youth programs, we do things like go into the classrooms and do ag in the classroom. That is just providing students in 4th grade exposure to farming because a lot of these kids don't understand that their food doesn't come from the supermarket. It comes from growing on the earth. The other thing we do, Ann had mentioned soil testing. I work with soil testing with youth as well. We also grow chickens because a lot of folks enjoy having chickens for eggs or for meat production. So the big thing that's kind of up and coming in Indiana is homesteading. So being able to raise your own food has become a big thing. So the eggs start in our incubator. After 21 days, I had 21 chicks in my office. And then we got rid of them because they started to stink. The other thing we do is go to the libraries. We have what they call food deserts in Indiana. It's areas where people do not have access to food. They don't necessarily know how to grow it, and there's no supermarkets for them to get things, even though there might be a Walmart or a store 20 miles away. They physically can't get to that spot. So we work on, this is a grow tower where you can grow microgreens so that people can have food in areas where they might not be able to get that sort of produce. And then we also have our county fair where youth work with livestock and make sure that they know responsibility. I don't think we have any 4-H educators here, but we all do a part of 4-H or 4S or 4S, similar here. My adult programming, Master Gardeners were mentioned, so we do some programs with that. Farmers and certifications to make sure that they can apply different chemicals and apply them correctly. So we do continuing education for them. Drones, is that a big thing here yet? So we're starting to do drones in Indiana. In the upper left, I conducted a drones program so that farmers, instead of looking straight out of field, they can go up in the air and look down and get different diagnostics, similar to what is being done with the solar panels, and figuring out, are there hot spots, are any of them broken or dirty or anything like that. The other thing that we do, this is a weed wrangle. We have a lot of invasive species. The Wabash River runs through my county, which is Wabash County, but we're trying to get rid of those invasive species. So as extension educators, goal one is to educate individuals on what invasive species do to our environment, and then two, how to get rid of them and get rid of them correctly, because a lot of the plants that we're dealing with, if you don't control them correctly, they're going to come back and come back worse. So we're trying to get that under control. It's become quite an issue in the past few years, but that's one thing that we're working really hard on in Extension. And I threw this slide in there for community outreach. A lot of individuals in our counties don't know what we do. They just think we are with Purdue. So what we try to do in my office, this is 4-H educator Jesse, Health and Human Sciences Mindy, and myself. So we all work in the county, and we work really hard to kind of give a face to what we do, because our county, along with Purdue, is what funds our office. So we want to make sure that those individuals actually use those resources. We also go to farmers markets. Our job is to educate those, so we can't just show up and give away free stuff. We have to actually make sure they learn things. And then, I'm sorry, Henry, you're not in this photo, but this is community outreach with okay. But we had the president of the university come, and then our directors come through. Again, just trying to get those folks to understand what our job is and what the resources we can provide through the university. I think that was it. I kind of rushed through it. So next we've got Beth Van Sickle.
Thank you. So I'm Beth Van Sickle. I'm from Central Indiana. I'm in the middle of the state, and I work with do a lot of gardening programs, focusing on master gardeners, training them to be able to go out and teach programs in our community with me, for me. In fact, that's what they're doing while I'm here, is teaching some programs for me. But so we work with the libraries in my county. Also a veterans program. We have a veterans farm that has just started up in our county, and veterans, after they get out of their service to our country, they're reacclimating to civilian life. And so the farm provides them an opportunity to learn new skills and connect with people in our community. We also work with community gardens, so we have several, like the other educators, we have several areas in our community that are food insecure. And so they don't know how to grow, or so we'll do some education classes on how to produce the food. But we also have areas that the community is coming together to grow a garden, and then that goes back out to them in that particular community. And so we've worked through several different grants, and we continue to do so to teach others about growing vegetables. And then also, my master gardeners do a plant sale every year, so it's an opportunity for them to educate about those plants. They do a lot of native plants, so those that grow in our area that are not invasive. We try to avoid the invasive ones. And so they get that opportunity to work with the public and educating them while selling plants. The other one I put on here is farm management. And so we do a beginning farmer program that's 8 weeks long, and that's for anybody who is starting out in farming, interested in becoming a farmer. And we've got a curriculum that we've put together that walks through the different steps of tracking assets and inputs and what you're going to need to marketing your product. So you have a plan in place before you start. And then, like the others have talked, we do private applicator recertification programs. We'll do 2 or 3 of those a year, and that's where we get our producers in, as well as our agribusiness employees that are applicators that put on the chemicals to go through some education. And so, and then other things that we do are field days. I happen to be in an area that we have a Purdue farm, so we do a field day every year educating about different ag practices, what research is going on. We do some farm safety, just a little bit of everything on that one. And the cattle, we do a beef basic, so it's for beginning beef producers. If you're interested in becoming to raise beef, we'll go through, and it's kind of start to finish, picking your market you want, whether you're going to do breeding stock, stocker, or like finisher. So, we'll talk about reproduction, nutrition, forages, and then another one that's an 8-week program, or is it 6? 8. It's 8. It's another one of our 8-week programs that we do. So those are just some of the things that I do. And I'm also part of the Women in Ag team and a few others, but these are the ones that we're going to focus on today.
All right, so hello everybody. My name is Dan Walker, and I'm a regional educator in community development, which is a little bit different than all the ANR people that have just spoken. No offense to them. And you've also seen a lot of pictures outdoors and stuff, right? So there's a lot of cows and corn and stuff in Indiana, but there's also a lot of communities, and that's where I focus my work. So I'm more of a concrete person. I put up a couple of pictures up here. Give you my background. I've been here about 8 years working at Purdue, 6 of which were as a campus specialist. Now I'm a regional educator. The regional educator position is pretty similar to specialist. We support county educators, and we also go out directly into communities and do engagement work, and that's really what I like to do the most. Prior to this role, I was a municipal planner. So my background is urban and regional planning and also education. And so this job is kind of like my dream job, I guess, or a job that really fits what I do, or what I'm good at maybe. So this is kind of the bread and butter of where we work, and or the rice and beans of where we work in Indiana is these, you like that? The smaller communities. So communities maybe under 10, excuse me, under 10,000 people, where they have maybe a mayor, maybe some local officials, but not like a staff planner, somebody they pay to do planning every day of the week. So that's the role I fill. As a regional educator, I serve the entire state. I also do some Midwest work. This is the North Central region, and there's a project I'll talk about for that, but sometimes we get to go across state lines and work in other communities on different projects too. But about 10,000 people, that's where we do a lot of our work. There's a couple programs I do. This is what it really looks like in these communities. When we do community planning work, we try to reach as many people as possible in the community. We never get everybody. Outreach is a challenge for us, just as it is out here, probably everywhere on earth. But we get who we get. We also do online surveys. We do paper surveys. We put those out and try to get feedback. And what we're trying to get feedback on is land use planning. We're trying to get feedback on parks and recreation planning, and some natural resource issues such as watershed planning. So those are the 3 sorts of areas we work on. I work with a smaller team, but like I said, there's some regional work that we do as well. One of the things I'm involved with at Purdue is the Purdue Land Use Team, and we try to serve as a resource for the state, for plan commissions around the state on land use issues. So solar is a big one. We'll put out publications for solar. We'll put out publications for other types of renewable energy. One of the big things going on right now across the United States is housing. We have an affordable housing issue throughout the country, and also definitely in Indiana. And so I'm collaborating with a regional team in the North Central region there with all those universities. You can see to look at what is Extension itself doing around housing, what are the programs we have, what are our strengths in housing, and how can we develop a program that we can apply in all of these states through our Extension network to look at the housing issue and try to get more people into homes, looking at affordability and also those local regulatory issues that impact the ability to build homes. And that's pretty much it. I think that covers it. So turn it over to Jeff.
All right, I apologize. I am the slacker in the group and didn't get the slide to the individual who put the slideshow together. So to alleviate time, I'm just going to talk to you without the slide. But my name is Jeff Pell. I am in a county that is kind of the central part of Indiana, close to Indianapolis, which is our capital in our state. Our county alone is kind of a suburbia, half rural. So we have a lot of suburbs, a lot of housing around the major Indianapolis area, but we also still have some rural development. So with my position, I am Ag and Natural Resources and Community Development. So I develop and try to engage with the community as far as county government, also working with a lot of our county parks, planning commissions as well. So we have about 187,000 people in our county. So we have a large group of individuals, a diverse population that I work with. But